Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul, aka Ryan Seacrest Invasion, and this video we're talking about what's going on with Everett Ross. Straight off, heavy spoilers ahead for Secret Invasion, so if you haven't had a chance to check out episode 1, then check out now. Everything from this point onwards is gonna ruin the episode for you, and staying past this point would be a weird hill to die on. Oops, spoiling it already with the puns, but yeah, we have a lot to talk about. Now the episode opens with Everett Ross meeting a crazy conspiracy theorist that we learn's named Agent Prescott. Finding out that he has damning evidence of Skrull's plans, Prescott lashes out at him, which is when he's killed by the character. Ross runs off into the night, pursued by a shadowy figure, and it's from this point that it all hits the fan. He smashes the ground like it's the like button, and it's revealed that he's a Skrull, and chances are that this completely blew your mind. Now I used to be like you, not a chump like you, but still someone who didn't know what was going on. However, the more I've thought about it, the more it's become clear, and I think I can finally answer what's going on here.
But I'm not a rapper.
Everyone's obviously asking if he's been a Skrull the whole time, but there's actually a lot of clues that show this isn't the case. Now, in order to talk about this, I have to go into the Skrull imitation ritual that we see being carried out in the episode. This happens in the restricted area of the power plant, in which we see a warrior copying one of the anti-Russian Americans. Now, in order to imitate someone, a Skrull has to first see them, and this then allows them to duplicate their look. This was first shown in Captain Marvel when Talos arrived on the beach, and he and his forces looked over, and two of them mimicked a surfer. They had to see her in order to do this, and this shows that Skrulls imitate by sight. It's the same with the soldier here, and the Skrulls have to make eye contact with them so they can become a copy. This just gives them a better frame of reference, and it's like when you're an artist and you use something to base your work off. So Ross at some point would have had to have been a real person so that the Skrull could copy them in the first place. Sure, they could have copied him as a kid and then grown up as him, but at some point they'd have to work their way through the security sector in order to get to the top. It's far easier to copy someone who's already in that position instead of playing the person since birth so you can get into it. Now Ross would be the perfect target for a Skrull to imitate as well, and it means that they could just take a shortcut when they're copying his look. Firstly, he was high up in American security and also married to Val, who herself's a big name too. Add to this the fact that he also had an in with Wakanda, and this would make him an extremely valuable target. This is a guy who's had his hand in two of the most powerful countries on Earth, and thus I think they sought him out rather than a Skrull growing up as him. Now Ross has also done something recently that makes him a very valuable asset. Caught giving secrets to Wakanda, he was arrested by Val and then carted off to prison for the rest of his life. At this point though, before he got there, he was freed by Okoye, and it's from here that he likely had to lie low. Now this would provide the Skrulls with the perfect opportunity to grab him, as he's in a very vulnerable position and out there on his own. He can't turn to the CIA because they're out there after him, and thus he couldn't go to them for help if he found out he'd been copied. He can, however, eventually go to S.H.I.E.L.D., but it's unlikely that he would do that because he's just been sprung from jail. However, a Skrull wouldn't have any qualms about this, and they may have captured him and then took him into the plant. Copying him from this point is the perfect point to take over, and this is something that we've seen happen in the comics. The Skrulls tended to mimic someone when they were completely on their own, at a point where they could be swapped out without anyone noticing. They could have seen that Ross was struggling on his own, and there's plenty of opportunity with where we last left him. Now, one of the big weaknesses of the Skrulls is that they're not perfect copies, and they often get sniffed out because of their poor personalities. Not slagging you guys off if you're watching it, I'm sure you're really nice and you always hit the thumbs up button, but it's something that's happened to them throughout the comics and movies. Skrulls had difficulty copying mannerisms, and under interrogation, they didn't hold up. For example, we see in Captain Marvel how Talos uses the wrong name with Nick and also tries to bluff his way through conversations about their shared history. This is something that alerted Nick, and it often alerts the heroes in the comics, as Skrulls couldn't really copy someone down to that level. Now, I will talk about the machine they have in the show, but I doubt that a Skrull would have copied Ross back when he was giving Val his own invasion in secret, eh? Now, Val, like Fury, is someone who has very few friends, and she's immediately suspicious of everyone she meets. In the comics, a Skrull actually took on the form of Val, and she and Fury ended up spending the night together. The next day, Fury was incredibly suspicious because she'd done things he hadn't seen before, you know what I'm saying, and he followed her out there when she was getting breakfast. This took him to an alleyway where he saw her meeting a contact, and he instantly realised that something was off. Back at their room, he then shot and killed her, which is when it was revealed that she was a Skrull. Now Val, because of her job, is exactly the same as Fury in that she doesn't trust anyone. Thus I think that becoming Ross would be the wrong thing for a Skrull to do, and it would make things so complicated if they were in a relationship. She'd probably sniff him out and realise that something was off, and would likely be aware of the Skrulls anyway because of her security clearance. So I can't see a Skrull imitating him then, and I think at the very least they'd wait until they divorced. We also don't know what kind of mutants there are knocking about in the MCU, and in the comics these could easily catch out Skrulls. Wolverine had a heightened sense of smell, so he could tell if someone was faking it, and Professor X could read minds and deduce it from that as well. Now again, Wakanda's a highly advanced civilization too, and they probably have the tech to sniff out foreign entities. Shuri of course operated on Ross after he got shot, and it's likely she would have discovered he was a Skrull during this time. So it has to have happened after that in order for things to work, and thus Ross couldn't have been one as recently as that. Now I personally think that he was likely grabbed after escaping the van, as he probably had to make his way out of the US. Wanted in the country, he may have done an Edward Snowden, which would have probably taken him all the way to Russia. This would allow the Skrulls the perfect chance to grab him, and they could then take over him and go and work with S.H.I.E.L.D. Now the memory machines have also had some upgrades too, and we see them possessing far more power than before. They can now hold someone in place, and the Skrulls can pull out their memories, which will help them fake people better when it comes to these kinds of agents. I doubt Hill would have just let him in the organisation, and he'd probably have had to pass some tests to prove that it was him. Having these memories though allowed for him to work his way in, and this is why she seems so shocked when she sees him on the ground. She genuinely believed that this was Everett Ross, and I was surprised that her and Fury didn't talk about it at some point. Potentially, they're all just as confused as we are, but it was a weird omission to not have it brought up. Now, the reason I think it wasn't is because they're not that alarmed, because they don't think that he's been a Skrull for this entire time. Talos probably filled them in, and it means that Ross is out there and likely still under the capture of them. Now I do think at some point that we will see him come back, and he's probably going to be someone they rescue in the show. Makes sense to have some characters we care about being held captive by the Skrulls, as it'll add more emotion to the rescue scene when they're finally freed. So in the end, I think the Skrulls became aware of Agent Prescott, and thus they sent someone in who could find out what was going on. Ross seemed like the best fit, and thus he was then chosen, and this is when Talos got wise to their plans. At least that's what I think when we talk about that reveal. It might be right, might be wrong, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on it in the comments below. If you want to support the channel for as little as 99 cents a month, then please click the join button below, and as a thank you, you'll get early access to videos every week. We also have our merch store over at shopzeroedition.com, which sells lots of nerdy inspired t-shirts, hats and more. We just launched a Secret Invasion / Pulp Fiction inspired t-shirt, so if you want to head over there and help us out, then the link's in the description. Now if you want something else to watch, then make sure you check out our breakdown on screen now, going over everything in that first episode. We talk about which characters you can see in the background that then show up later on, and there's lots of cool little details hidden away in the scenes. Hopefully I see you over there after this. If not, then don't care, because you're clearly a Skrull, and I didn't want you hanging around on the channel anyway, so get the hell out of here, son of a bitch. Anyway, thanks for sitting through it if you're not a Skrull, and I'll see you next time. You take care. I'm out. Peace.